Awesome. I want to welcome everybody to this final breakout session of the day. We do, of course, have a closing fireside chat with Gitika Gorthy and Frank White after this, so I hope you'll stick around for that. And if you're watching the recording, I hope you'll go find the recording of Frank and Gitika as well. Their perspective, I'm looking forward to. But this is very much a why session, and you've been in space education sessions all day if you've been with us or you've looked at the other videos on the site. So I'm sure you're hearing a lot of great opportunities, a lot of great perspectives. But I think probably everybody in this field could do their own space education 101 session, and I'd get something out of it. So I hope you all get a little something out of this. As the slide suggests, our purpose here is preparing students for humanity's future in space. The ever so slightly more pragmatic version of that is we're preparing students for the growing space economy. So I'm going to be kind of addressing both of those, preparing students for participating in the growing space economy, whether they're directly working in the space industry or they're just trying to take advantage of developments in the space industry in whatever industry they happen to be in. And with a little bit more ambitious eye on the future, we'll be thinking about how we might best prepare them for humanity's multi-planet future in space and how they might be great citizens of the solar system in the future. So it is an ambitious session to be sure. And you may have seen these this morning if you were here for the opening, but I always like to grab a couple of noteworthy things from the headlines when we get started. So just Wednesday this week was the latest Starship full stack test flight with the Super Heavy booster and the latest iteration of Starship. Unfortunately, both of them were lost. But when I talk about skill sets and mindsets for success in a fast moving, unpredictable future, which is a lot of what we can do to prepare students, is helping them build those skill sets and mindsets. This is a great example of the moonshot thinking approach to solving problems. So this is thinking big, thinking outside the box, like say catching a booster instead of putting heavy landing gear on it. And they fail forward and they fail fast. So while some people may find it disappointing that they're not moving faster or being more successful, the faster they can crash starships, the better they'll be, and the faster they'll get to the point they need to be for their ambitions, their multi-planetary ambitions. Tomorrow, of course, we have the next Blue Origin launch. Another crew going up on a suborbital flight, but they're going to get to experience looking back at Earth, looking back at the spaceship Earth that we all share in the otherwise forbidding black void of space. And the people that bring that perspective back tend to have an impact down here. And I'm excited that there's a couple educators on the next flight. So looking forward to speaking with them in the future. I also, right out of the headlines, happening today, this event, I thought you guys would get a kick out of seeing my setup. It's maybe a little messier than I normally show on camera, but I've got the Chromebook set up all the way around the desk. I've been monitoring every session here, and it's just awesome to see all of the good stuff that's being um, contributed here and to see everybody that's participating. And fantastic right now on my screen here to see a classroom full of students in Mexico. Hopefully, like Dave Mackay's story this morning, I hope that there are people in that room that might be future astronauts, future test pilots, scientists, engineers, and others who might join kind of the growing space economy and humanity's future in space. So let's have those positive ripples in time. Incidentally, you can see lots of my stacks of space books. Oh, and travel books, and I'll be citing a few of those today too. But first, I want to hear what brought you here. What is the trajectory that brought you here? Same question we asked the astronauts this morning. And we've got 11 people. So anybody that wants to speak up, I'd love to hear like a 30-second, 30 to 60-second, let's call it 30 to 45-second version of what brought you here. And that'll help me tailor session a little bit. And I think also it's always great idea to acknowledge the experience and expertise that is in the room. I know there's a number of people here that run their own space education programs, so it'd be great for you guys to hear what they do. Just keep it brief because I'm ambitious with what I want to cover today too. Um, But if you guys want to let me know what is the trajectory that brought you here, speak up now. Or if I can put you guys on the spot, maybe I can just go down real quick for a quick 30-second spot from each of you. Leanne, can I start with you? You just happen to be at the top of on my screen. Oh, you are muted though.
Hit that audio button.
Yep.
You've heard my name before. Uh, Sitting in my geology class at the graduate department, I was in charge of curating a meteorite collection that's now in the National Museum of Natural History. So
Awesome.
I got to know an amateur meteorite collector, and I have a history of legacy of space exploration. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. I'm going to call you our resident astrogeologist for the day, if that's appropriate. Awesome. And let's see, we heard from Marcos before the recording, but Marcos, can you introduce your class real quick? Oh, if it's yeah,
Okay, okay. Hello, it's fine?
yes, that's great.
Okay, this is a special class here in the American Embassy in Mexico, in the Benjamin Franklin Library, because we have in this place all the facilities, all the tools, all the educational tools to develop class exactly like the United States. And then this student is the next generation that we want to be part of the space exploration, and maybe one of them will be the first Mexican, real Mexican astronaut.
Awesome.
Thank
I love it. I love it. And a recurring theme in this session is it's not just scientists, engineers, and astronauts. Like whatever your skills and passions, there's a place for you in the growing space economy, and certainly in humanity's future in space. We need artists. We need all types, um, entertainers, you name it. I know a space chef. I know a space interior designer. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Logan, what's your 30 to 45 second?
My grandfather, who worked on all the Apollo spacecraft, my first grade teacher, who built a Saturn V rocket out of refrigerator boxes, my community college geology instructor, my department chair at Western Washington University in the geology department. That led to collecting patches, being curious about their design, having conversations with artists, astronauts. Um, that led me to realize the stories I were uncovering seemed to be new and intriguing to others. So that got me to share. And I developed, started STEAM for Space. And now I've got patches all over the world to over 1,300 educators in 25 countries, including Marcos, which is cool. And I'm partnered with Fred Hayes to essentially bring his stories of his mission and flying career to students and educators alike.
That's awesome. Thanks, Logan. And good to have you here. And thanks for helping out moderating as well. And
My
that's your map, isn't it? You were naming all those gravity assists along the way, weren't you?
Yeah, I posted it in the chat somewhere early on. So, but yeah, I actually published it on my website, giving due credit to all the educators in my life.
Awesome. All right, Marufa, I know we saw you there in Hawaii. I don't know if you're able to speak up right now, but hey, here we are.
Sure. My name is Marufa Bhuyan. I am located in Hawaii. I've been living in here almost 12 years. I'm an analog astronaut and founder and CEO of Everest Innovation Lab in Hawaii. But I'm originally from Bangladesh. So it's like seeing the world from different perspectives have taught me kind of like exposing myself in the space industry. And people are really cool in space industry. The more I know, I just get impressed for all the work everyone does, and try to inspire people to learn like what is happening in space
That's awesome.
and just be aware about it. And yeah, and thank you for. I mean, hello everyone. Nice to meet you all. It's a big audience somewhere. Um, and I invite you to visit Hawaii. It's beautiful beaches, and also maybe in Bangladesh someday. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And I love it. It's a great great lesson to anybody that's watching this, and particularly for the students in the room. Absolutely. If there's a role in the space industry you're interested in, just reach out to those people. Reach out to the people that you've seen speaking and sharing at this event. Hit them up on LinkedIn. If you can dig up their email or their phone number, give them a call. That I'm sure they'd love to hear from you and would want to share with the next generation. And this is a very international crowd. We're gonna go to Australia next. Jen, you're on my screen here.
G'day, everyone. Well, my trajectory is that my 10-year-old daughter decided she wanted to become an astronaut, and we lived up in far north Queensland. So I looked for STEM things to get her involved with and encourage her, but there was nothing. So her and a few friends asked me to start up an astronaut club at school, which I did. I thought we'd have a couple of kids. We ended up with 70 kids at this tiny little school up in far north Queensland. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. Now we're in Canberra, just starting to take off. I've just come back from the Australian Space Summit, and it's just amazing. Mark, I did one of Mark's courses along the way as well, which was an amazing help. Thank you, Mark. And yeah, we're just really going well now.
That's awesome. That's
Hmm.
fun to hear. And it makes me feel good in terms of those ripple effects. I know you were already well on your way, but anything that you learned in my class that you put into work in Canberra, or it's just be Canberra would be awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. If I'm following this correctly, we've made our way down to Adrian.
Yes, hi. Well, let's see. I'm a retired molecular immunologist, PhD molecular immunologist, so I'm intimately interested in astrobiology, among other things. And I'm not directly an educator, but I have participated, as I mentioned before in the previous chat room, in a number of science fairs, judging, and so forth. Some financial prizes supports that along with the local. I'm based here in San Diego, California. And so, along with the local NSS chapter, we've participated in quite a number of science fairs and some of the street fairs also, having presentations with a local friend that was a Mars Society member, presenting facts and just getting people to come up and talk to us about Mars and Mars geology and Mars rovers. So that's been very interesting to see the number of people interested in that kind of stuff. My
Awesome.
love of flying has as a kid, I'm old enough to have seen all the moonshots. Sitting at home watching Apollo 11, and Neil Armstrong set his foot on the moon, and some of the tragedies of the early flights, the Apollo 1 capsule and so forth. But as I said, I'm not directly a direct educator, but I am very interested in STEM education for kids. And one of the things I'd like to propose is maybe more interest in radio astronomy. I'm also very
Mhm.
interested in radio astronomy, and there's some very simple projects that can be done in groups, in school groups. Um, the detection of the molecular hydrogen from the galaxy can be done with a very simple receiver and antennas that can be done from backyards.
Well,
And if you analyze the reception of those radio emissions, you can actually map the arms of the Milky Way and determine its rotational speed and prove that dark matter exists with a very simple backyard setup. And so there's a number of things that can be done that can really get kids excited in some projects for space exploration. So
awesome. Well, if you have any links to share, definitely drop them into the chat as well. And I see there's a couple other posts there too. But we've got a handful of people left, and I was trying to wrap this up around the top of the hour, so we'll be quick. But Motasham, I presume still coming to us from Pakistan, right?
Yeah, hi. So great to be back here. So I'm here from Pakistan, speaking from Pakistan, but I might be moving to Arizona soon.
Oh,
I
wow.
have been enrolled in University of Arizona for astronomy and coming in fall 2025. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats.
thank you.
I'm excited for you. Motasham started coming to this event, oh, 3.5, maybe almost 4 years ago at four in the morning while in high school, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, it was in ninth grade, and now I've just graduated like college, and I've graduated my high school, and I'm on a gap year, and it's actually 2 a.m. right now. So
Oh
yeah,
my
it's pretty
goodness. Oh my
exciting.
goodness. Well, kudos to you for sticking it out. And let's go to Paul. Paul, we can see that the sun has gone down there.
Sure, yeah, it's pretty dark in the UK right now. It's 10 p.m. But it's so hot and humid. I don't want to like close the blinds and put the light on. So apologies. Yeah, I'm still here. So my trajectory was um, the shuttle missions. I'm not quite old enough to remember Apollo, but growing up in the 80s and early 90s, certainly remember the shuttles going off. And then it wasn't until really sort of about 10 years ago when I went to a school that had a disused uh, um, observatory when some small telescopes. And I was able to reignite my passion and spread the word. And that's how I got back into astronomy. Now I'm at a new school that doesn't have anything at all. So I brought all my collection of telescopes with me. And yeah, a radio telescope is one that interests me too. I've had a quick foray into the Radio Jove project, but yeah, detecting hydrogen lines and the spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy, I know can be done. I've not done it myself. I'd love to be able to build a radio telescope and try that with my students too, Adrian. So that sounds like something that's got to happen.
Love it. Well, it occurs to me with the astronomy connections and the geology connections, I'll be sharing both during the course of the session. So hopefully that'll resonate with some of you. All right, if I'm tracking, we've got maybe three people left. We've got Marantha and Selena and John. Marantha, if you're there and want to say hi, now's a great time. Oh, Maranatha. Sorry, I was leaving a syllable out there. Or Selena, if you want to unmute and say hi to the group, let us know your trajectory.
Hello. I have taught elementary students about space and the solar system. I taught a unit with tinker.com where they showed the elementary group students how to start coding, and it culminated with a NASA event. And so they got to actually have the astronauts on that event where they're kind of discussing it worldwide. And then separately, I've watched a launch with that particular class, and we got to watch it live. So it's just been a great way to get students interested in science. And mainly, I just love the exploration and perspectives that can be found with NASA.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing and thanks for being here. And then John, if you're there with us live, if you want to unmute and say hey. Oh,
Hey,
hey,
how's
we
it
can check you.
going?
Awesome.
So I'm John Bover. I'm the director of curriculum at SLU, which is an online astronomy platform that allows students to access professional grade telescopes, schedule time on them, get images that are processed in real time. We have standards aligned learning activities. And so my trajectory that brought me here started at a very, very young age. When I was an infant still, my parents noticed that I was really interested in the night sky, interested in Ernie singing about being on the moon. And so they've fostered that in me growing up. And so any chance I could, I'm watching the news stations to watch the space shuttles go off. I'm trying to do anything I can to learn more about the night sky and things like Boy Scouts, for example. Eventually, I went into college and studied physics because there wasn't an astronomy program where I went to, but I was able to use that to do research in astronomy. I have done radio research, measuring dark matter content in dwarf galaxies nearby the Milky Way, and then had a stint where I worked with exoplanet data, looking for planets that the community has potentially missed. And then eventually I found SLU after I got my PhD, and it's been wonderful being able to create learning materials for kids from kindergarten through college and get them excited about astronomy, space, earth science, and this awesome future that we have ahead of us as humanity. So thank you for having me here.
I've got a couple slides for SLU at the end of this, and obviously I've been working with you guys too, and could be biased, but boy, it's awesome. Like it has, I've been a space enthusiast my whole life and been interested in astronomy, but never been able to go down the rabbit hole like I have since having access to those tools and being able to bring those to more schools is pretty exciting.
Definitely.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into the slides. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your story, and I hope even for a room full of students that it was exciting to see some of what's happening in various programs. A lot of informal educators here with us, working with programs that you don't necessarily find in schools, but a lot of folks that you could reach out to if you're interested in what they're doing. For my own trajectory, like a lot of you, I'm a lifelong space enthusiast. This started when I was very young. I was lucky enough to go to space camp a couple of times. I think this is like sixth grade and 11th grade. Um, Between us, I was also lucky enough to get that the Right Stuff Award, the outstanding camper most likely to go to space. So it hasn't happened yet, but I suppose I'm closer than I've ever been. But that actually led me to go study astronautical engineering as an undergrad. But like everybody in those days, I jumped ship. Although instead of jumping to like civil or mechanical engineering, I jumped all the way to studying literature and philosophy, in large part because I realized it was the stories about the future that were most important to me, more than say like redesigning the bolt on the panel on the spacecraft that had been in use for 20 years already. That said, that got me into teaching. I was an English teacher briefly, but as soon as I was working in a school as an English teacher and teaching the AP Lit class, like it was a great situation. Also re-engaged the other side of my brain and got involved in education technology at a really exciting time. Google had just been founded. You can see how cool our computers were. The between the BlueBerry iMac and the Comic Sans font, I think this slide really captures that era of my life. Never mind the tie. But very quickly, I kind of moved through a number of jobs where I was a ed tech coordinator at the site level, at the district level, and then at the county office. And I left my government job to really take those professional development experiences for teachers on the road. So for 20 odd years, my career was about teaching educators to use computers in meaningful ways. A lot of my work was in partnership with Google for Education. My team white labeled more or less most of the Google education programs during those years, call it 2006 to right up to COVID. And I just absolutely loved doing the Google Teacher Academy, Google Certified Innovator program that followed it. So really fantastic way to get to see some innovative schools all over the planet and to kind of bring that home here. But that market was changing. They hit 95% market penetration by 2019, just in time for COVID. And I had an opportunity to start thinking about what's next and started to hone in on the idea of space education. To me, it really feels like a field wide open and ahead of the game the way ed tech was 15, 20 years ago. And so all of my efforts have been focused on space education since early 2020, right just before COVID hit. So it's a great opportunity to hit the reset button. Got to go back to school. My PhD's in ed tech, but got to go back to school for graduate degree certificates in space education and space philosophy. So who knew those existed? But I had my ducks in a row and wrote a book about it, which I'll be talking about a little bit today. And then the opportunity to build a curriculum on top of that with Space Prize and the opportunity to build a course, which some of you have taken. Thank you very much, and I hope those ripple effects pay off. So a lot of these are resources I'll share at the end of the session, and many of them are resources that anyone can take advantage of online wherever you happen to be in the world. I should also share that there maybe needs to be a slide right before Space Camp because I was very much inspired, at least from fifth grade on, as a 10-year-old by I was already into science fiction, but in particular by Star Trek, and it took me a long time to figure out to kind of put my finger on why. but it ultimately, these are stories about a hopeful future, right? That we can get excited about. And from an education perspective, there are things we can do now to bring about that kind of hopeful future. And it's a future where diverse people work together using science and technology and sometimes philosophy or even spirituality to solve problems and help others. Like that really is what Star Trek captures. That is really a hopeful vision of the future that we can actually work toward. There may be some challenges and obstacles to overcome, lots of them along the way, but I'm very much still inspired by those stories today. And boy, it's another golden age of Star Trek shows if you're a fan. So ultimately, that brings us to a place where we can imagine a world where your students are engaged in similar work, right? Where your students are working together using science and technology to solve problems and help others. And I have always been, in my entire ed tech career, a huge advocate of the idea that you don't need to wait for grad school to do original research, and you certainly don't need to wait until you're in the workforce to be solving real problems. 18 years of, or call it 12, 13 years of public school is a lot of man hours or person hours, right? You don't want to just turn in your assignment and twiddle your thumbs while you wait for a grade. Absolutely, you should be engaging your kids and solving real problems, and there's no reason it can't be problems related to things that they're passionate about, whether that's the environment or humanity's future in space. So that's what we're talking about here. And to put it in statistical terms, uh, one of the biggest problems in schools today, particularly post-COVID, is student disengagement. And the statistics are striking. If you look at chronic absence rates in particular, they're about triple now, still about triple what they were before pre-COVID. So it was a little bit of we peeled back the curtain on Oz, or it's the Emperor's clothes have been revealed, or whatever it is, whatever the right metaphor is. This idea that, hey, maybe we don't need to sit in rows for 6 hours a day to learn. And kids kind of got that message, and it's hard to get them re-engaged. So we have something like 40% of New York City students last year were chronically absent. My own kids here in Irvine have the same problem. And I've looked at chronic absence rates in Laguna Beach, affluent community down the road, and they're triple what they were before COVID. And the same is true for teacher burnout. Teacher burnout is more prevalent now than it's ever been in my career. 70% of LAUSD teachers that report burnout and a desire to leave the profession. And I think that probably resonates with a lot of you across the country. And the answer to that, a potential answer to that, is really quite simple. Because there's also research that shows that 93% of US students are interested in space. So it's not a boy or a girl thing or an elementary, secondary, or any other demographics like that. The kids are interested in space. Like nothing in public policy is 93%. And even if you don't trust that study, it was 500 American families across demographics, by the way. My own grad students have seen numbers like 85%, 89% in their courses and in the studies that they've done. So yes, it holds true. Kids are interested in space. Whatever their strengths and passions are, you can connect them to space in some way. So that's how we're going to engage and motivate kids and get them excited about space and teach whatever it is that we're being held to teach, because you can teach just about anything through the lens of space. Just off the top of my head, my friend and colleague Jim Christensen at the recently retired from the Aldrin Family Foundation. Jim used to have a lesson called Home on the Moon. If you engage kids in designing a home or a school on the moon, you can teach anything. If you're a science teacher, you can teach the water cycle, nitrogen cycle, hydrogen cycle, right? Jim would quip that even plumbing and HVAC is sexy on the moon, right? So whatever it is you need to teach, being able to talk about it through the lens of space can be engaging and motivating for kids. That could be governance if you're a social studies teacher, right? Certainly, as a former high school English teacher, my kids could be meeting all sorts of nonfiction reading and writing standards and listening and speaking standards while learning about something that they're interested in. Might as well be space. So one of the driving questions in my work with teachers is this one: are students ready for this reality? And I like to share just a couple of examples that I think even space enthusiasts are not necessarily thinking of that might kind of reframe this for you. So, for instance, if we look at something like the full stack Starship, or even the New Glenn rocket that Blue Origin's developing, these are heavy lift, reusable vehicles. And Starship in particular is expected to be able to hold 100 tons or so of cargo or passengers. And sure, it's designed to go to the moon and to Mars with lots of refueling, but it can also go anywhere on the planet in 45 minutes. A full orbit's 90 minutes, so you can go 45 minutes either way. You can get anywhere on the planet, up and down, in 45 minutes. And by the way, have the overview effect while you're at it, right? As if you just rode Blue Origin or something. But how many industries is that going to change? Think of how that changes things for, say, Amazon. There's no wonder Blue Origin's developing one of these, right? Or how it changes things in a geopolitical context with the military. The U.S. military already has contracts to drop men and materiel anywhere in the world in 45 minutes without even a landing pad or a runway. In fact, now we can catch the super heavy booster. So what are we doing to prepare kids for a world where this is true? How's that going to change travel and a number of other industries if they think they can take 100 people from New York to Singapore in 45 minutes at the same price as a first class ticket on an airplane, that takes 19 hours? That's going to change a lot of things. Another similar one, I'll go through three quick examples. The second one is now that we have constellations of satellites like Starlink in particular that can provide broadband internet access regardless of borders or despots, this is changing geopolitical realities down here. It's already changed things in the Ukraine conflict, for instance. It's certainly changing things in countries where they don't have the copper wires and they don't, or fiber, and they don't have tower infrastructure even, because in some countries cell towers leapfrogged the need for copper or fiber. But now you don't need any of those things. You can tap into satellites in space using a relatively ordinary handset. And that's changing, again, lots of industries. And if you combine things like Starlink with something like GPS, for instance, just think of agriculture. What can you do if your tractor knows where it is and is always online? And perhaps it's a robotic drone driven by AI, right? Now it's part of the Internet of Things. So if you're a shoe manufacturer, what if your shoe knows where it is and it's always online, and it's part of the Internet of Things? So this is again affecting all kinds of industries, and whatever industry students are going to wind up in, they're going to need to know the developments that are coming out of space. Another one I like to talk about is Earth observation satellites. So like Planet or Planet Labs, formerly, for example, being able to, well, SLU, for instance, has a new partnership using the ESA satellite, one of the Copernicus constellation. They can image anywhere on the Earth every 5 days, and that's just their first partnership. So what happens when ordinary people and students have access to data like that, and they can study changes over time? This is obviously already one of our most powerful tools for tracking and combating climate change. It's used for everything from stopping poachers to studying land use and erosion and urban planning. So again, satellites and particularly GPS affect almost every industry you can imagine. GPS, if you think about basic human needs, not just getting around, but how do we get food? Uber Eats doesn't work without GPS, right? And who do we date or mate with? Like Tinder doesn't work without GPS. So we're already seeing these constellations of satellites affecting literally every industry and important core human ways of relating to the world. So what are we doing to prepare kids for that? Most schools, not very much. There's also a workforce development element to this. This infographic is 3 years old, as you can see. But at the time, the global space economy was valued at over $400 billion. At the time, they were projecting a $1 trillion space economy by 2040. Not even a year later, other independent projections were saying $1 trillion around 2030. And it seems to be we're more or less on pace for that right now. So this is not this works in two ways. These companies, the companies you see here, like SpaceX or Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic, they've got great examples. They need every kind of employee Planet Labs and the others and Morpheus and lots of startups. There's like 3 dozen space companies here in Irvine alone. They need accountants and bookkeepers. They need HR people. They need marketing people. They need graphic designers. If you watch a Starship launch, who designed the interface? Who shows that iconic, who designed that iconic representation of the Raptor engines? There's coders involved, computer scientists, you name it. So these companies in the quote space industry or space economy need people with all kinds of strengths and passions and abilities, right? It's not just scientists, engineers, and astronauts. The flip side is also true. If we go back to the shoemaker example, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you better know what new materials are coming out of space. You better be able to take advantage of things like GPS and Earth observation satellites. It's the same way 20 years ago we had to convince teachers that maybe it was a good idea to teach about the internet. And now it's a foregone conclusion. I think the same thing is true about space technology and space developments. We can't be graduating students that don't understand what's happening in the space industry because it affects everything and it affects geopolitical realities down here. In fact, just a couple other technologies have an incredible power to change things down here. I was lucky enough to take a class from John Mankins, who wrote the case for space solar power. And this book came out in 2014. I think most of it he wrote 2012, 2013. And a lot of this book is saying like, hey, no question, space-based solar power is going to be the cheapest, most cost-effective, and cleanest power we can get. It's going to outperform anything down here. Like oil won't even be an issue anymore because it's going to be cheaper and better to get solar power from space. All we need is cheap reusable launch vehicles. Well, guess what we have now? Menken's book is full of calculations of cost and what we would need, and we've more or less hit a lot of those marks. So it's really exciting to see what's possible now. China's just done some exciting experiments with it. And the science is much safer than you think. If we're beaming the energy down with a microwave, we're not cooking birds and we're not cooking people. It's significantly safe. But that has the opportunity to absolutely change geopolitical realities down here. You can imagine if we're not quite so strong or chained to fossil fuels around the world, that's going to change things. Similarly, asteroid mining, there's a lot of naysayers, but when you look at entire asteroids having more value than GDP of the planet, although I'm not sure that term makes any sense, and the supply and demand wouldn't work out that way. The idea that perhaps we could be mining lithium for batteries in space instead of here on Earth, it's a particularly dirty process. Jeff Bezos really champions Jerry O'Neill's idea that, hey, let's get industry off the planet, right? We do that dirty mining in space, and then we've got all the lithium we need for the batteries to have our electric cars and so forth down here that are running off of space solar power. But I also want to recommend Martin Alvis's book on asteroids. This will really help you understand the geological realities behind that and the economic realities behind that. And if you want a slightly more entertaining fictional version, the book Delta V is a really fantastic boy. Off the top of my head, is it Silva? Daniel Silva, I think is the author. If any of you have read that, maybe somebody can fact check me there. But I highly recommend the book Delta V as an introduction to asteroid mining and the economics of it. They get into cryptocurrencies for cislunar economy and all that in the sequel. So some of this maybe, depending, even if you're a space enthusiast, some of this might be sort of hopefully stretching your brain a little bit. And we're largely not doing anything to prepare kids for that. Never mind a more ambitious future. If Elon wants to see 1 million people on Mars in his lifetime, we got a lot of work to do. The amount of infrastructure that's necessary for this is mind-boggling. And I've got a few exercises in my class where we walk through just the consequences of a 6 to 44 minute delay to Mars is significant, and thinking through that will hurt your brain. But there's no emergency distance learning on Mars for the first settlers. They're going to be largely on their own until they build more infrastructure there. But we also don't want to just lead with the military industrial complex, right? We're going to want to think really hard about what kind of citizens and what kind of life we want when we settle other planets and through the solar system and beyond. And we're going to need to think about what kind of leaders we want. And that brings me back around to philosophy and ethics, governance, sustainability. How are we going to treat the new planets that we're settling, like Moon or Mars or elsewhere in the solar system and beyond? So it's definitely ambitious when I'm talking about this, but then the question becomes, how might we prepare students? By the way, I think the answer is very close to whatever vision you might have seen depicted of Starfleet Academy, to go back to Star Trek. The Starfleet officers are not just scientists, engineers, and astronauts. They're also well versed in literature and philosophy, and they're facing difficult ethical decisions all the time in that show. So how might we prepare students? Yes, it's about STEM. We definitely need to be giving them experience with coding and robotics and using virtual reality and AI effectively, especially today. A lot of new opportunities open up. You get efforts like 2-hour learning, for instance, is taking advantage of what we learned during COVID. Kids with the right tech and the right support can be learning all of the required curriculum in about 2 hours. And then what do you do with the rest of the day? Now you finally got room for your project-based learning and your inquiry-driven learning and passion-based learning. And kids can, you can ask kids, what problem do you want to solve? And say, you've got all the resources in the school at your disposal. What do you want to learn, right? So that's where most of my work picks up. That's where my course picks up. That's where the book and the Space Prize curriculum that I'll share with you pick up. And one of the things that I come back to over and over again is, yes, we need those STEM skills, but we also need sort of the skill sets and mindsets that are going to be effective for kids in the future. Because as much as I've just talked about a lot of, asteroid mining and space solar power, like, we can't predict the future, but we can prepare kids for a fast moving, unpredictable future. And so we can prepare them with things like the explorer's mindset, which touches on abundance thinking and touches on resilience and on positive psychology. So all of those are elements of an explorer who's going out into the unknown with the belief that if they run into obstacles, they can also find ways around those obstacles or answers to those problems, right? We can teach moonshot thinking. I mentioned with the respect to Starship, thinking big, taking on big, challenging problems, and thinking outside the box, coming up with innovative new solutions, and then failing forward and failing fast, crashing as many rockets or loon balloons, to go back to the stories from Google's X Lab, as fast as you can so that you can get to working prototypes that solve the problem. So we get into the explorer's mindset, moonshot thinking. We get kids into design thinking, but we do moonshot thinking first because design thinking tends to just give people what they want or to just be iterative. So you got to think outside the box first. But then at least you've got the design methods for generating new ideas and prototyping and testing and iterating from there. And then we get into, inspired by this picture and Katie Coleman's recent book, which I should have grabbed off the shelf, Sharing Space. Katie Coleman's book gets into operational mindset. So it's not all about you, but you are critically important to the mission. And I think that's a great metaphor to bring back to the classroom, even if it's 30 or 40 or 50 kids in the classroom. It's certainly not all about one attention-grabbing person, but every person in that classroom is critical to the learning mission. And it's true of everybody sitting in this Zoom right now together. So we get into the STEM elements, we get into the skill sets and mindsets. And then in the longer version of this that you come across in my course, I really take the time to think about how might we educate kids when we get there. And if you do these activities with kids, it's a great opportunity. Like I was saying with the Home on the Moon, Jim Christensen's activity, it's a great opportunity to engage kids in the science and to geek out about it. What would you want your moon to be like or your home to be like on the moon, or your school to be like on the moon? I was challenged by the Moon Village Association to design a school for their first community at Shackleton Crater with 125 settlers, which means about 20 school-age kids, which means a one-room schoolhouse. And that's a great challenge to turn around and share with kids. So among the notes for this session, you'll also find links to all of that. And again, you can teach anything through that lens of a home on the moon, and it's a great metacognitive skill set too. If they think about what they want out of their home or out of a school on the moon, and how they learn best, and if you were to start from scratch on another world, what would you do differently? So these are great levels at which to engage kids metacognitively and in design methods as well. But like I said too, we're thinking big. We're thinking far down the road. We're thinking about ethics and governance and sustainability. And I just love this particular image of Dr. Mackenzie Lystrup being sworn in as director of the Goddard Space Center on Carl Sagan's pale blue dot. Just such a great model for the future. But I think engaging kids in those ideas, engaging kids in ethical dilemmas of whatever problem they're trying to solve, trying to find the ethical elements and helping them to struggle with those. And it's not just like right or wrong, but a true ethical dilemma. There is no answer that's all right. Like the various answers might have some degree of benefit and also some degree of detriment, and various gray areas, and having to make those decisions with incomplete information is really what leadership is about. And so giving kids actual experience struggling with those things can be important. So with an eye on my time, I want to start wrapping things up. But I want to make the point too that this is not just for science teachers, right? Um, you don't need to be an astronomer to help kids learn astronomy. Like a tool like SLU can be very effective at helping you do that. You don't even need to be a science teacher. Like I said, as a former high school English teacher, I would absolutely have kids learning about space or the elements of space that they are passionate about, to do their nonfiction reading and writing, and their listening and speaking. They could be presenting about it. You can be developing those skills while kids are focused on something hopeful and meaningful to their future, rather than just looking over their shoulder and remediating on what they missed during the COVID years, right? Or how far behind they are on test scores today. Because over and over again, research says that remediation isn't the way to go. You've got to light their fire and get kids motivated to move forward. So I kind of challenge everybody here, whether you're an informal educator like Adrian. I happen to be looking at Adrian right now, or you're running your own space education programs, or you're in a classroom, or you're a student sitting in a classroom. I think everybody here can find a way to be a space educator, to share some of the ideas that I've been talking about, to engage others in what they know about space, to engage people who go down the sort of pessimistic road of, oh, it's just a billionaire joyride. But if you were here for the astronaut panel this morning, those recent flights, even those commercial short duration flights, like that's not just a billionaire's joyride. Like those people come back changed, and they all make a difference down here when they come back changed. So you can engage people when they get into those pessimistic sort of off the cuff reactions to headlines, and you can be a space educator standing in line at the coffee shop. Like Elizabeth Wallace does a great job at that, just to throw her props here. So I want to challenge everyone to do that, and it's certainly possible if you're interested and you're in such a position to join a global movement. I'm going to share with you again the Facebook community that we host. Everybody will get that in a follow-up email too. You can go to events like SEEK, which is pictured here. There's a huge teacher conference every year at Johnson Space Center, well, Space Center in Houston. And there's a similar one that's in February. There's a similar one in June at Kennedy Space Center. Cryptically or poorly named SPACE. It's the Spaceport Area Conference for Educators, but try Googling the space conference. So you have to Google the whole name. The Spaceport Area Conference for Educators will get you there. But I highly recommend both. You'll meet with astronauts, you'll meet with folks from NASA and commercial space companies. There's some fantastic behind the gates tours. So if you've got the opportunity to travel, those are two ways you can get plugged in straight away. And ultimately, even if you're not an educator or you're not going into education, space education really is for everyone. We all stand to benefit from this. There were a lot of ways in which the inspiration for flight I think, hit the target of inspiring people that we can all be a part of this. They've got a nurse and a community college professor, and in addition to the engineer and the billionaire that paid for it. Like, it's really just that is, as an image and a backdrop for what I'm trying to say, I think is important. That space education is for everyone. The benefits of space are for everyone. There's a whole chapter on that in the Space Prize curriculum. So in the last few minutes here, I definitely want to be able to share some resources and then open it up to any sort of final questions and discussion. But during the opening session, I did share that my book on space education is available on Amazon. It's 13 papers that I wrote when I was going through the certificates on space education and space philosophy. So that's a great place to start. It's not necessarily a student-facing book, but for any of you that are interested in it, you can pick that up too. And in the links, I'll share the downloadable PDF, so you don't even have to go grab it from Amazon. The space education curriculum that I developed while I was at Space Prize Foundation in 21-22, it's been updated. In fact, the folks that were updating it, at least one of them was here earlier today. But this gets into not just an introduction to space science or the history of space exploration. It gets into why space is important to people on Earth. It helps you engage people. It gets into what's happening in the new space economy and in China, by the way. A lot of people aren't talking about the fact that they've got a permanently crewed space station now too, and that they just today I saw headlines about they had some success with their self-landing reusable rocket, and they're ahead of us now in space solar power. So we got to know what's happening there in China. And it gets into those issues of ethics and governance and sustainability. And it even gets into future implications like, say, avoiding existential threats and perhaps achieving our higher aspirations for shepherding terrestrial life through the solar system and beyond. So it is ambitious, and that's a free open education resource that you can reach at spaceeducation.org. I'm also going to share a spreadsheet of additional resources. It's got about 100 space education resources, lightly annotated, as you can see here. So you can probably find something that's relevant to the subject area or grade level or after school program that you're involved with or to your own passions. So wanted to make sure you guys all leave with a ton of other resources that you can use. If you want to extend this beyond the summit and you want to join me, the course is really designed for educators or enthusiasts. We certainly talk about bringing up the next generation, but about half the people that take my course are not formal educators. So be happy to have you with us, whoever you are. So it's 12 weeks, basically a graduate level course. You definitely, you don't have to take it for a grade or anything. So you don't even have to finish the project if you want to show up and talk with us for 12 weeks. We go through basically a week on every slide I just shared with lots of resources. So would love to have you with me. And then I see Jen nodding her head. She's already done this with me at a rough time, but I'm running it finally at a time that works for Australians and people in Asia. So if you're seeing this video on time, you can join us starting June 5th. Same thing. I'll be doing it at like 11 p.m. my time, but we'll run for 12 weeks and make our way through the full course. And for you geology folks, join me in November. We're going back. I think it's the fifth or sixth time for our Earth and space experience in New Mexico. We go to Spaceport America, pictured here. Spend a day there with the Spaceport Authority and with Virgin Galactic, and then and there's a STEM tour at both places. And then we get out into the desert the following 2 days, and we tour the solar system without leaving New Mexico. So we go to lava flows and craters and sand dunes, places analogous to specific spots on the moon and Mars and elsewhere in the solar system. So a real field experience if you're interested in that. And if some of the prices you see there are difficult to attain, we finally set up a membership that effectively works like a monthly payment. So if it's I think it's $12.99 for the experience, but you're paying $99 a month, you have it paid in a year. Similarly, in 4 months, you've paid off the course if you do the liftoff membership. And the higher membership also includes the course. You can get the course and the experience for the same monthly payment. And separate from my company, but working in partnership with a couple of others at Galactic Medallion and elsewhere, myself and Kirby Runyon, who's the planetary scientist I work with in New Mexico, we're going up to Lassen Volcanic National Park with astronomer Pamela Gay and from Astronomy Cast. And we're studying the geology there. We're going to get to there's all four kinds of volcanoes from the solar system are represented there. We get into the geothermal elements like are pictured here, although this is AI generated picture, and it's such a beautiful place. I really should just use the real images of Lassen, but we'll get into the astrobiology of extremophiles and what kind of life in these thermal features might exist on Io, for instance, Jupiter's moon Io, or elsewhere in the solar system, perhaps on Venus. And we'll have dark sky experiences with Pamela Gay in the evenings, and of course we'll have Dr. Kirby Runyon's informed enthusiasm with the geology in the day. So if you want to come with me and Dr. Runyon and Dr. Gay, it's a pretty great opportunity to go travel the solar system with planetary scientists. Finally, because I'm almost out of time, I do work with John over at SLU. It's been exciting to be helping to get that raise awareness around what they've built and get it into more schools. But SLU literally gives students access to world-class remote telescopes around the globe. So we're talking half-meter telescopes at 13,000 feet in places like the Canary Islands or Chile or Australia. Dark sky reserves where they get these beautiful images of things like the Orion Nebula, one of my favorite objects to view and photograph. And they've built in tons of learning resources, from little mini lectures that you can watch when the telescopes are live streaming the objects that kids have scheduled, to guides about those objects, to actual interactive quests where kids are interacting with content, and then they're capturing their own data. They're writing firsthand observations, and they're sharing with a community of peers and experts. Like this is work that scientists do the way that scientists do it. So it's a very authentic experience. It's certainly a career readiness element in terms of preparing them for that kind of work with robotic telescopes, and also with Earth observation satellites. The same sort of satellites I was talking about earlier are changing so many industries today. And this opens up a lot of other connections to Earth and space science standards. You can see just from the preview of these quests that you're learning about artificial satellites, you're learning about geology, you're learning about geography. You can track natural disasters, you can track environmental science changes over time. We can get into urban planning and so forth. You can see a representative here, parts of a river. So a lot of the existing Earth and space science standards can be studied using imagery from satellites. And students, again, are scheduling the images that they want and need, and they're imaging the whole Earth every 5 days so you can study those changes over time. And the first thing you're going to do, of course, is schedule images of your hometown. You'd be surprised what you learn from those, especially when you look at changes over time. So I'm going to have to share the link with you, but again, I'll send everybody a follow-up after this too. But I hope you guys will join the Space Educator Network, which is a Facebook group where you can share resources, and I share there, and there's a number of other folks that are prolific there. So definitely want you guys to have a place to network after this event. Also, after this event, we'll share the videos of this session and the opening sessions, closing sessions, and lots of the concurrent sessions like this over the last 6 events and this one. So 7 summits so far. There'll be well over 100 videos by the time we get these posted. So want to leave you guys with that link as well. It's also all over our site, and the emails have been sent out. And it's worth noting that we have a separate channel for an interview series I did with Space Prize just a couple of years ago, but it's still particularly relevant. And we interviewed people across the space industry, many of them women, because we were focused on empowering young women in that case. But you can see just from the samples here, we interviewed the head of the largest private space company in China. We interviewed a space broadcaster and a space artist and a space historian, a space interior designer. There was a space fashion designer. So this is just a really great series to illustrate how many careers are now possible in the growing space economy, whatever your interests and passions and strengths happen to be. So we are in our final minutes, and I want to encourage everybody to light this candle. You know, what can you test in the next 30 days? What can you try? If there's something here in this session or this summit that lit your fire, what can you do to test this and give yourself a shot clock? 30 days. Or if you're just going into summer break, what can you test in September when you get back, right? But even then, I'd say 30 days. What can you test yourself while it's fresh in your mind and you're motivated? So that's your reflection question for the day, and I'm also happy to stick around for a couple minutes to answer questions for anybody that's got them or reactions to what you saw. And particularly as I'm seeing Marcus's camera come on here, if you guys have any questions from there, definitely want to prioritize the student questions. At a certain point, we'll need to move over to the big room for Frank White and Gitika Gorthy. But for right now, we can certainly chat. We're seeing waving. That's good. But from any of you, the adults or the students here, any questions, thoughts, reactions, reflections, things you want to test in 30 days?
I have a suggestion, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably have a very full schedule on your trip out to Alaska. That's just such an incredible place. But if I can make a suggestion, just up the road, and this is kind of a plug, there's the Hat Creek Island Array Telescope. That's a
How
free
far
visit.
up the road?
Not that far up the road. Uh, and you can look up the map, but it's in the general location, and it's a free visit. It's an incredible place to to go visit and see the facility there that's used by SETI, and they use that also for search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and among other things, they do radio astronomy up there too. But I just thought I'd plug that, and it's not that far. If you have
Hat Creek.
if you have
All
half a
right.
day to go up there, you might want to look into possible side trip to visit
Yeah,
it.
we're getting into the lava tubes just outside of the park. So there might be an opportunity to add something like that. There's no spaceport, but a telescope would be amazing. Fantastic.
Yeah, this is an array of radio telescopes. They have, gosh, I don't know, 20, 30 radio telescopes that they use as an array up there for various activities, and it's an impressive sight if you ever get a chance to visit. In any case,
All right, here I'm going to drop, since there were some questions about the links, I will drop them in here while we're here. But thank you, Adrian. Good suggestion. If anybody else has other questions or suggestions, now is a great time while I'm grabbing these links. Oops.
I think Lassen is an incredible place. I actually grew up just southeast of Lassen in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth on geology. So, and cut a few other body parts as well.
I am sure.
Yeah.
So there's the book at Amazon and the PDF. There's the free open education version of the curriculum, and there's the spreadsheet I mentioned. And then coming up, so all of that is free unless you buy it at Amazon. And then here's the course. And the field experience in New Mexico. And let's see, here's the one in Lassen. And I dropped SLU in earlier, but I'll do that again now. And John's still here if you guys have questions about that too. Oh, that actually doesn't work. I'm gonna have to go grab. Here's the Facebook group. Oh, I will also grab you the better. There's the YouTube channel. And the
This
space.
is Leanne. I already posted the link to the Facebook group I joined
Awesome.
and also to some of the books.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So there you go. I grabbed the important ones. That's all there in your chat if you want to save the chat, or at least start clicking on them. But I'm going to go ahead and actually, Logan, if you're still recording, go ahead and stop the